Hello students. Hello, welcome to Drishti IAS. Good afternoon. So my name is Saloni Nandkeolyar and as always let us begin with the Hindu analysis. So today is 30th of April. Let's start with the first important article for today. That is about V2V technology. Okay, so this article says that cart before horse on India and vehicle-to-vehicle communication technology. So basically the government has said that they're wanting to come up with a vehicle-to-vehicle technology. They have made this announcement and experts are saying this is like putting the last step before the first step. It's cart before horse. You, instead of prepping up the horse first, we are first prepping up the cart. So the sequence of stuff is not good. So let's understand what is happening and then we'll see why is this criticism being made. So the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways is set to introduce vehicle-to-vehicle V2V communication technology that will allow vehicles on road to send and receive data about their location and movement vectors. So what is this? This is nothing. This is basically a technology, a V2V technology, vehicle-to-vehicle technology, where these vehicles are going to communicate with each other. Vehicles themselves, cars and all these different vehicles that are moving on road, they'll be able to communicate with themselves. Like they'll be able to share real-time data like their speed, location, braking, etc. For example, let's say the car ahead of you applied immediate brakes. So before you could sense it, the vehicle would sense it because this communication will happen. This data is going to be transferred in real time and then automatic brakes for your car will also be applied. So technology wise it is good, and especially at times when there is low visibility, when there is poor visibility, where we have blind spots or there is fog and the weather is not appropriate, particularly at that time, this technology is going to be extremely helpful, right? Because then we will not be relying on the weather, we will not actually be dependent on anything, and vehicles will be able to communicate with each other. And this V2V technology is a part of a bigger ecosystem, that is V2X, which is vehicle to everything. Now let's understand this. In order to V2V to function, in order for V2V to function, we need to have V2X first, which will have V2I, which is vehicle to infrastructure, V2P, vehicle to pedestrians, and V2V, which is vehicle to vehicle, right? Because you have to look at the traffic in real time. Only the vehicles communicating with each other will not work. Vehicles will also have to communicate with the pedestrian. Pedestrian information will also need to be given. Infrastructure information will also need to be transferred. So it's a part of a larger ecosystem. So technology wise, it is definitely a good initiative. If this comes into practice, V2X comes into practice on Indian roads, we'll be able to ensure road safety better. In fact, very recently, the Supreme Court also said that it's a fundamental right under Article 21, safe passage on highways, safe commute on highways is actually a fundamental right that is covered under Article 21, because a lot of deaths are happening and these deaths, they are actually avoidable. Accidents, they are avoidable if we have proper infrastructure in place, if we have proper technology in place, these things are actually avoidable. That is why the Honorable Supreme Court of India also made this statement that it's actually a fundamental right of all the citizens of India that you can commute safely on highways. So in this regard only, as a step, we now are planning on V2V, introducing V2V. And what is the issue? Why is there criticism? Why are we saying it's cart before horse? Because this is a very advanced technology. We are talking about smart solutions where we don't even have smart cities. This is an entire ecosystem. How will this ecosystem function properly if all the organs are not functioning appropriately? We have the basic infrastructure problem, basic road problems existing at the moment. Those basic problems are yet unresolved and we are focusing on advanced level solutions. We are focusing on high level technology. But the basic problem, like we have manholes, potholes, infrastructure is not appropriate and accountability is not properly fixed, poor infrastructure or poor construction material is being used. Then at the back end also, for this thing to function, real real-time data systems have to exist, communication systems have to exist. So do we have such things in place? Like, do we have the entire ecosystem in place? No. At the moment, not. And these are certain challenges. We'll discuss those challenges also. So these are certain challenges, very important challenges that are being called out by the experts, and they are saying that you are wanting, or the government is basically wanting to get into the V2V technology or enroll the V2V technology without understanding that the proper ecosystem is not in place. So what are the challenges? That's why it is being said that you're focusing on the last step first, wherein the first step, or having the appropriate infrastructure, is not yet up to the mark. So first is the basic road problem. Basic road problem, I already told you, we have unresolved basic road problems and we cannot focus on advanced solutions at the moment. That does not mean that we don't need advanced solutions. We definitely need advanced solutions, but we have to go in a phase-wise manner, right? Lack of infrastructure. This infrastructure is not just physical infrastructure. So we have physical plus technological infrastructure. Those communication systems, that wiring, that broadband, everything, the data system, they have to work efficiently. So, and they have to work efficiently everywhere. So this infrastructure, lack of infrastructure again is a big challenge. No clear standards. Now we said that we want to roll out V2V, but we don't know which standard are we going to follow. How are these vehicles going to communicate with each other, or basically in communication in a language? So they are going to communicate in their own language. Vehicles are going to communicate in their own language, and for that we have two formats, DSRC and CV2X. So this is for short range, dedicated, short range communication, and this is cellular V2X, vehicle to everything. So this is short range. So what are we going to follow? Are we going to follow short range communication between vehicles, or are we going to follow cellular communication, like long range communication, use of 4G, 5G network for communication? We don't know. And the challenge over here is that if we do not have clear standards that are ensured beforehand, then some vehicles might have this, some vehicles might have this. Then how will the vehicles communicate with each other? So this again is a challenge, that the proper framework has to exist first. Then it will work only if many vehicles have it, correct? If some vehicles have it, let's say only 20-30% of the vehicles have it, 70-80% do not have it. How will they communicate with each other? It will not be effective. So if not every vehicle, then many vehicles need to have this in order for this system to function efficiently. And this is going to increase what? The cost burden. Right now, installation of all these different hardware that we have, they already cost extra money, and people, they want to save money, right? So these are like added expenditure. It's an additional expenditure that you need to have hardware for this also. So it will actually put cost burden on the pockets of people. And the Indian traffic reality, most importantly, is different. Indian traffic reality, unfortunately, is very haphazard. We have people not following traffic rules, people not following lane driving, pedestrians walking, not in the designated area. So it's a very haphazard reality. It's not like exactly in the West or in the other developed nations that people are following traffic rules very effectively and lane driving is happening. This is not the reality in India. Reality is different. So it's very, it will actually create a lot of confusion. That is why it's being said that it's a larger part of V2X. You only focus on V2V, but what about V2I, V2P? Everybody has to communicate with each other for the road safety to be ensured. Because what was our goal? Road safety. Correct. This was our goal. We have to ensure road safety. We have to reduce the number of accidents on the road. We have to reduce the number of deaths caused by those accidents. So this is the goal, and that goal will only be achieved when the entire ecosystem is going to work. Okay, so this article says that the steps, the order that we are following for these different steps is not up to the mark. We need to focus on the ecosystem first, and then we can talk about these smart city solutions. So build smart cities first, and then smart city solutions can exist. Okay. Now let's move on to the second article for today. It says that the latest NSO results show rise in health-seeking behavior and relatively low out-of-pocket medical expenses. So this basically is a health survey which talks about some important findings, and the most important finding that it says is that the health seeking behavior is increasing. Now what is this health seeking behavior? It simply is like nowadays people are not taking their health lightly. If they face any problem, they are ready to go to the doctor. They want to go to the doctor. They want to get treated. Earlier what used to happen, people took things very casually, took their health very casually, and they used to rely more on home remedies or self-medication. They did not really want to go and see a doctor. But now health seeking behavior is increasing. People are going to hospitals, people are going to the doctors, and they want to get treated. So this behavior is increasing. This behavior is actually driven by a lot of factors, because it is becoming, let's say this health is actually becoming more and more feasible. Health treatments are becoming feasible to people. Coverage, insurance coverage is increasing. Because of these things, people are now feeling more comfortable in going out and getting themselves checked by the doctors in the hospitals, because they know that they'll be covered by an insurance, and they know that these are there are a lot of generic medicines that are available free of cost. So these are certain things that are being provided by the government. Again, the entire ecosystem, health ecosystem, which is being built by the government to ensure that safe and affordable health treatments are available for everyone. So the survey says that there have been some good things, like the insurance penetration. Insurance penetration has increased both in the rural and urban areas. You know, we have the Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Bharat Yojana, right? Here we have an insurance cover of 5 lakh rupees per family per year, correct? And this can be spent anyway, like either on government hospitals, private hospitals, does not matter. But this is only for secondary and tertiary care, right? Hospitalization. It is going to cover the hospitalization bills, the diagnosis bills that come up when you are already hospitalized. So people are taking advantage of this. People are taking advantage of this insurance scheme that is there. Then Jan Arogya Mandirs are there, health and wellness centers. We have health and wellness centers available for people. So you can get free consultation from doctors here, free medicine, everything is in place, and that's actually saying that the health seeking behavior is increasing. People are now feeling more and more motivated to go and see a doctor if they face a challenge. And we also know that FDI in the insurance sector has been increased to 100%. So that's why also insurance is now becoming more and more affordable, because more companies are coming in, they are investing in India. So competition is going to increase, and when the competition is going to increase, the premium is going to fall. And that is actually going to increase the coverage both in the rural areas and in the urban areas. And that's what we are seeing. Out-of-pocket expenditure is also decreasing, but it still remains a very big problem. Out-of-pocket expenditure meaning that, okay, insurance is covering your hospitalization, but what about other things? What about the diagnosis? What about the results? What about the tests that you have to do before? So it's going to cover things only once you are hospitalized, but things in the primary care like consultation fee of doctors, that itself is very high in private hospitals. So what about that? That is all out-of-pocket expenditure. So out-of-pocket expenditure is not covered, and out-of-pocket expenditure is actually a big challenge in the Indian health system. People will get covered, or people will get the insurance amount once they are hospitalized, and whatever has been done during their hospitalization stay, whatever diagnosis, whatever tests have been run on them during their stay in the hospital, that is going to be covered. But what if they are not hospitalized? Of all the tests, the diagnosis, they are very expensive, and everything, the consultation fee that I already told you. So these are certain things that are still remaining a challenge in India. However, a good news is that the health seeking behavior is increasing in urban areas, but as well as in rural areas, which means that we are now going to see less amounts of deaths, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, everything is coming down. So to substantiate with data, you will see that the rural illness reporting, we are talking about reporting over here, this itself has increased from 6.8% to 12.2%. Okay, urban illness reporting has also increased from 9.1% to 14.9%. People are becoming more vigilant towards their health. Coverage has also increased. This is the insurance coverage that we are talking about. Coverage in the rural areas increased significantly. See, 12.9% to 45.5%. A lot of factors in play here, like the scheme that the government has 100% insurance, the 100% FDI in insurance sector that is already there. So these things are adding to the coverage. Coverage has also increased. Then hospital usage has also increased. So hospitalization rates, if there is something that is wrong, if there is a serious illness and hospitalization is prescribed, then that has also increased from 28% to 35%, and this is particularly for the rural areas. Rural areas where people do not have access to such kind of an infrastructure. They cannot, always, they cannot really afford hospitalization. They cannot really afford consultation at all times. So this has also increased. Then most importantly, institutional delivery has also increased. Institutional delivery, that instead of children being born at homes, people are now preferring institutional deliveries. They are going to the clinics, they are going to hospitals, and babies are born there. So they are born in institutions. Institutional delivery has increased. Rural areas also close to 95% and urban areas close to 98%. So almost 100%. This is going to reduce what? IMR and MMR that we talked about, because better care is going to be provided to both the baby as well as the mother. So this is the data, and the challenge still over here is the out-of-pocket expenditure and the primary health care. Out-of-pocket expenditure, insurance is not covering out-of-pocket expenditure, and this is still very high in India. Primary healthcare, again, if you are not hospitalized, like secondary or tertiary is covered, but primary, if you are not hospitalized, that is not going to be covered. Your OPD fees, regular frequent visits to the doctor if they are required, every time a consultation fee is going to be charged, that again is going to be very high. Diagnosis, tests, these are expensive. Okay, so this is still a challenge. So that's about this article. Now let's move on to the next article for the day. It's about the war on Iran and Gulf's shattered illusions. So this article is basically talking about the changed reality in Gulf. Because of the ongoing war between US, Israel and Iran, a lot of things have changed. The world is facing a crisis, an energy crisis. Other than that, Iran itself, or US also, or in general the Gulf region, they are also now living in a different reality. Gulf for the longest amount of time was considered to be a safe haven, because a lot of migrants from India also used to go and work in the Gulf, because it was considered to be what? Safe, reliable. But now that reality is changing. So much of disruption is happening, so much of uncertainty is present in the region, that is actually shattering the illusions that we had about the Gulf, that the entire world had about the Gulf. So this energy corridor, we know, energy corridor, Strait of Hormuz, this is under a constant threat. Now also it is closed. At the moment it is closed, and Iran has proposed that it wants to open it. There are certain conditions that it has put forth, but US is saying that we won't agree to those conditions. Now this battle, or basically battle of wills between both the US and Iran, is leading to a global energy crisis that the entire world is facing, because it's a major energy corridor. It was responsible for 20% of the energy transit, correct? So this is happening. Now because of this, the economy of the world as well as the economy of the Gulf is also fluctuating, because a lot of trade depends on this region. So the economy of Gulf is also changing. Then Iran's regime, though it is still there, but it has now become weak because of the repeated attacks that have been there. And not just economy or not just polity, but if you talk about culture, a lot of cultural damage is also happening. Very recently there were some UNESCO World Heritage Sites. UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Iran, where close to those UNESCO World Heritage Sites, because some bombing happened, because of that, as a ripple effect, there was a lot of damage that was caused to those World Heritage Sites also. So culture is also being lost over here, polity is also under threat, economy is also under threat, and millions of people are actually losing their lives They are losing their lives. They are moving from one place to another. They are living under fear, under uncertainty. So the entire illusion that we had about Gulf, that it is a safe place to work, it is a safe place to live, people wanted to live there. Now that is actually shattering. That is it really that safe? And it's not just about Gulf, it is also about the US. That US, though this war is still ongoing, and both the parties are saying that this will continue because they have not been able to reach any peace negotiations, any peace conclusions so far. So for US also, a lot of economic loss is happening, a lot of money is being spent on this direction, and then repeated threats coming up from both the parties are simply saying that whatever illusion that we had around about this entire region, it's not really the reality of that place anymore. So the Gulf is now changed. So Gulf is being stripped of its long cherished image as a safe haven for capital, for entrepreneurship and migrants. Investments are also suffering. If this region is going to be uncertain and for the longest duration of time, how will investments happen? So investments are also suffering, capital is also suffering, infrastructure is suffering. Then what remains is a nation gutted. It's talked about Iran. Its capacity to govern and protect itself gravely diminished. So we are actually, these attacks and the war that is ongoing, it's stripping of Iran from within. It's actually removing the basic infrastructure or everything that Iran had, and there are going to be severe consequences. Even after the war ends, then what is going to happen? Okay, the regime will still exist, but then it might lead to some sort of a coercion or some sort of an aggression towards the entire world. So this is also a challenge. And the Gulf, that was long seen as a stabilizing energy hub, right? Stabilizing energy hub has been compromised. The entire world is suffering because of the supply chain shock. So the entire world is now feeling mistrust, and the trust actually that the world had on this region is being lost. And the war has rewritten Gulf story from a beacon of stability to a region grappling with fragility, volatility, and the specter of prolonged discontent. So these are the things that are happening. They are going to continue at least till the time both the parties reach a final peace conclusion. Right now they are involving in threats, in name calling and everything, but let's see, let's hope that things get better really soon. Moving on to the next article, which is about the Supreme Court saying that it cannot reform faith in the Sabarimala review. We know that the Sabarimala verdict of 2018, Supreme Court verdict of 2018 is being reviewed, right? So earlier the Sabarimala temple, which is in Kerala, menstruating women from the age group of 10 to 50 years, Lord Ayyappa, who is considered to be an eternal celibate. So these women, menstruating women, they were not allowed. But in 2018 a verdict came, and that verdict said that this is against the fundamental right of women also to practice their own religion. Article 25, correct? So women were allowed. Now women were allowed, but when two women, when they actually entered the temple, they visited the temple, then a lot of chaos happened. People did not, a lot of people like Lord Ayyappa devotees or the Sabarimala temple, it did not really take it in, it basically took it as a way of people encroaching their religion, encroaching their religious practices. So right now it is again in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is reviewing its own decision. And within this hearing also, like while this hearing only, a lot of questions are being asked. And as a response, the court has said that it cannot reform faith, because one of the justices, she argued that social reform also includes religious reform. When we talk about social reform, religious practices should also be reformed, the religion should also be mended. But the Supreme Court is saying that court cannot really reform faith. So a lot of questions are being asked here. We have already discussed the essential religious practice, that whether a practice is actually essential to that faith or not, and is Sabarimala is actually a religious denomination or not. So a lot of articles like Article 14, Article 15, Article 25, Article 26 for religious denominations, they are actually under scrutiny. So social reform includes the reform of religion, Miss Indira Jaisingh said. So religious practices must harmonize with social reform. Constitution must be read as a whole and not in bits and pieces. So read as a whole meaning all the fundamental rights that we are talking about, 14, 15, 25, 26, 21, they have to be read in coordination with each other, in tandem with each other, and not alone. But Justice B.V. Nagaratna pointed out that the petitioners who have sought a review of the Sabarimala verdict had had argued that reform cannot hollow a religion out of existence. So they're questioning that, how much authority does the court actually has to reform a faith, reform a religion. It should not really hollow the religion of all its faith, of all its belief. And the balkanization of Hinduism should not happen. This is what Ms. Jai Singh said. Balkanization of Hinduism simply meaning the fragmentation of Hinduism into different sects, where every sect is practicing their own beliefs, their own faith, their own rituals, own customs under the name of essential religious practices. So balkanization should not happen. Every temple, if it starts these are questions that are being asked in court, that every temple, if it starts behaving as a separate religious denomination, having their own essential religious practice, then how will we amend or mend anything if required? And then there are other questions, that do we actually have that authority to do such a thing, or is it upon the religion to actually mend its ways if they feel there is a need to do so? So let's see what comes out of this thing. But the questions that are being asked are around ERP and the role of religious denomination. So these articles and these the entire debate becomes very important for us. Okay. Now let's move on to the next article for the day, which is around E100 fuel. So the government has proposed the use of E100. It has actually E100 approval has been given. E100 is what? 100% ethanol. Till now we have E20, like at the moment we have E20, 20% of blending of ethanol in petrol, right? 20% ethanol, which is being used, but now the government has proposed E100 also, like almost 100% ethanol to be used. Benefits are the same. Like benefits, first and foremost, our crude oil import is going to reduce, because now we are not focusing on only blending 20%, 30%, 50%. We are saying use 100% ethanol. Use 100% ethanol, which means that our crude oil import is going to come down, and a lot of other things will happen. We'll discuss that also. But there are certain challenges in this also, and what is being proposed is also very important for us. So the government has said that it has issued a draft notification proposing to recognize E100 or 100% ethanol as an approved automotive fuel. So ethanol fuel is going to be what? A plant-based fuel. Plant-based fuel, because this is being derived from things like sugarcane, maize, or your agricultural waste. Correct? So this is going to benefit the farmers as well as the Indian economy. How? So reduce oil imports, one of the most important advantages of using E100, 100% of ethanol, almost 100%, 90, 95, 100% of ethanol. So our crude oil imports are going to come down, because right now we are 85 to 90% dependent on imports for our crude oil, correct? So if this is going to come down, our import bill is going to come down. And with the current instability in the entire world, yesterday also we saw this, that even though the imports have gone down, the import bill has increased, because the unit rate or the unit cost is actually high because of the global crude oil prices increasing. So that's why we cannot really rely on crude oil at the moment, because we do not have that kind of a capacity. We are the third biggest producer and consumer of oil. So we don't have that kind of a capacity to produce it domestically, and we are relying on imports. And where we are relying, that region is actually unstable. So this is the most important benefit. Second, this is a cleaner fuel. This is not going to cause that amount of an emission in comparison to petrol. So it's cleaner fuel. It is environmental friendly. Then increased farmer income. Very important. So you see, it's actually plant-based, right? Sugarcane, maize, agriculture waste and everything. So farmers are going to get better income, because they are going to be growing such things, and these things like they are being used as food crops also, and these things are also going to be used as fuel. So their income is also going to be increased, because they will be producing more also, and they will also be getting better results. However, one challenge here in the long run could be that it could give rise to food security challenges also, if not properly monitored and implemented. If the farmers simply start focusing more and more on the production of these things and sell it only for the fuel generation capacity and not exactly in the markets for food consumption, then that can be one challenge. So proper implementation and monitoring needs to happen, but otherwise farmer income is going to increase and our self-reliance in fuel is going to increase, right? Because this is plant-based, this can be grown domestically, so this is going to increase our self-reliance in fuel, and our crude oil import dependence is going to come down. So this has been proposed, but for this to be implemented, certain changes or modifications will be required in the engines also. So let's see how that comes out. But if this is implemented, and this actually could be the future, so because the notification has already been issued, so once this is implemented, a proper timeline is introduced, then we can look at having a cleaner fuel and lesser emissions and contributing more to environmental safety. So that was all for this discussion. These were the important articles from today's newspaper. I hope you enjoyed the video. Now we'll look at a practice question for prelims. Okay. All right. Okay, before we do that, we have the Studio J's Foundation live online course. This course is going to help you in your prelims plus mains syllabus coverage, prelims plus mains preparation in 1250 plus hours of classes. You'll get printed class notes, you'll get a live chat facility and a complete syllabus coverage in 14 months. And you'll also have Hindi, English and Hinglish mediums to choose from. The course fee is 34,999 rupees, but there is also a coupon code that's available, SALONI, Saloni, all in capital letters only, and if you apply this coupon code, you can get the maximum discount for yourself. So don't wait, admissions are already open. Please call us at 87501 87501, and you can also download the Drishti Learning app. Now let's look at the practice question. With reference to E100 fuel, consider the following statements. 1. It is a fuel consisting almost entirely of ethanol. 2. It can be used in all conventional petrol vehicles without modification. 3. It is produced from agricultural sources like sugarcane and maize. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 and 3 only, B. 1 and 2 only, C. 2 and 3 only, or D. 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question and provide your answers in the comment section. The PDF of this session will be uploaded on our Telegram channel. Please go ahead and download it from there. Thank you for watching.